Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome for this last release of 2022 for Xen Orchestra 5.78 already. We have a lot to cover today. It's a little bit earlier compared to the other release because it's soon the holidays, the end of the year holidays will hit, and most of our team will be enjoying some time with the family. So we are releasing a little bit earlier, but we still have a lot of things to cover. And not taking any longer, Oliver, if you want to jump in, here you go.
Thank you, Mark. And indeed, as you can see, it's almost the end of the year, and we are making our release right now. And despite having only, I would call one sprint, one cycle for the Xen Orchestra team to make a release instead of two, usually we split a month in two with two sprints. It's only one, but we managed to get interesting stuff to be released for this month. And we will start already with a feature that has been implemented first in the API of XCP-ng and Xen server called the ZAPI. And it's a mechanism that we wanted to have since a while to be able to ignore some VM disks when you are calling the vm.snapshot method from the API. So you will be able to read and to click on the link to see the work we've did into the upstream ZAPI project. And now in Xen Orchestra, when you use the noback tag inside the name of the disk, this will automatically use this capability for ZAPI with this kind of feature. So previously, only using the noback thing will just call the VM snapshot method. So we'll have a snapshot for all your disks of your VM, but it won't export it. So you saved space on the backup side, but you didn't save space on the storage repository. With the new ZAPI mechanism, when noback will be spotted, Xen Orchestra will automatically call vm.snapshot, but excluding all the disks with the noback name into it. And so the snapshots will avoid using more disk space for the disk you don't want to backup. So now, from the snapshot perspective, it won't do any snapshot on the noback disk. So that's good. And it's 100% transparent for you. The thing that you need a recent version of the ZAPI to enjoy these features that would be merged in the upstream. It's now available in XCP-ng 8.3 alpha version, but that will be available in the official 8.3 release when the time will come. And then for you, that would be completely transparent, meaning that you just keep noback, and that would be better for you in the next release of XCP-ng. But already that's planned and working in Xen Orchestra. So that's it for the VM snapshot ignoring disks. The next big thing that we worked, and more precisely Florent worked on, is a tool to migrate from VMware to XCP-ng. So we did a, a blog post earlier on the different way to migrate from VMware to XCP-ng. You could use an OVA export, store the OVA somewhere, import it then into XCP-ng and Xen Orchestra, or alternatively use Clonezilla. But those two methods require some kind of a long off time for your VM and getting your service not available at that time. And so we decided to use a method that we released recently called the warm migration. So as a reminder, warm migration is doing the first replication between two XCP-ng hosts for a VM while doing the snapshot the first time. While the VM is still running, you replicate the entire snapshot. So it takes a lot of time, but it's not a big deal because the VM is still running on the source host. And when the first replication is made, we shut down the VM, make a new snapshot, and only export the diff, and then start it on the other side. So the downtime is very minimal, despite migrating between maybe two different CPUs, vendors, and so on. And we wanted to get a similar kind of features to migrate from VMware to XCP-ng, meaning that in theory, the end goal of this feature is to be able to automatically replicate a VM from VMware to XCP-ng, make the first replication while the VM is running, then shut down the VM, make the diff, send it to XCP-ng, and boot on XCP-ng side. So that's the theory. We managed, and Florent managed to get to the phase two, meaning that we can make it work right now in a preview mode, if you like, with the CLI, so you could replicate already your VM, but only from a snapshot or when the VM is halted. There's no delta mode as we speak, but clearly this is our next target, maybe for January release and something like this. So you can already test it if you use a specific branch for now. So if you're using the VMware release channel into your XOA, or the VMware branch if you are using from the source, it's an exocli vm.import from ES6i command, which is pretty simple and will just make everything for you, replicating the VM from source to destination. It's pretty harmless since it doesn't remove anything on VMware side. It just, fetching the disks from there and replicating it to XCPNG side. So I would say it's relatively safe. It works on almost all VMware versions, but clearly we need your experience and feedback on this. So there's a button in the blog posts where you could click and go to our thread and explain if you have issues or things like that. And the next step will be to get this working with Delta mode, allowing you to make the first replication, and then finally to get the VM ready to boot on XCPNG side. So expect more news, but we are eager that you could test it. So there's, as I said earlier in previous videos and release, there's more and more VMware users migrating to XCPNG. So we truly wanted to help them to make an easy migration to XCPNG. That's it for this part. The next part is an update we did with Kubernetes. With the Kubernetes recipe we have in XOA, even XOA 3. If you go to the hub and hub got all the templates you might need to build something easily, there are templates hosted inside our servers, but there's also a recipe using one of the templates to create a small Kubernetes cluster in a turnkey fashion. And since on a relatively recent version of Kubernetes, you need let's say a container network interface through a network plugin. We used Flannel that is now working, and so the recipe is back and working well. Now we use this new component. It works pretty well, so feel free if you want to make some experiments on Kubernetes on top of XCPNG. It's basically deploying Debian VMs and then installing all the components needed to get a running cluster in a fully automated fashion. So feedback is also welcome if you have any problem with that. We are not Kubernetes specialists, but we try to give you an environment where it's pretty easy to create clusters, so you can see how it works on top of XCPNG and Xen Orchestra. Let's go for the next thing, which is related to Exolite. So as you know, Exolite is meant to be an embed solution to manage your XCPNG hosts directly without using Xen Orchestra for, I would say, when you bootstrap your infrastructure or if you have maybe one host only. So we added this month's graphs, especially the CPU graph usage, which is themed depending on using dark mode or clear mode. And as you might imagine, the hardest part is to create the first component, and then it will be pretty fast to add other graphs like memory usage and other things, network, and so on and so on. But it's our first, I would say, graph component that is out. And again, now it will be even faster to create new ones derivating from this one. And the rest done on this month is let's say quality of life in terms of UI. So when you go to a page or that doesn't exist, or seeing an object that disappeared, remove VM in something like this, you will have a clear message explaining you the problem or the error you might have. So it's important to have this in your software because having blank page or a cryptic error message isn't great. And again, keep in mind that Exolite is also all the time we use to make it will be reused for the EXO number 6 with the new UI that will reuse some component of Exolite. So this work done today will be reused for EXO 6 that we expect to get the first alpha release next year. Talking about EXO number 6, some, let's say, content to keep you, let's say, on what's going on behind the scene, because there's a lot of work to prepare EXO 6, because it's not just the UI, it's a lot more than this. It's big changes in the core of Xen Orchestra. And one of the big changes we're working on and having good progress is creating tasks for Xen Orchestra. As you might know, right now we got only tasks that are coming from the host. So, for example, if you do a VM shutdown or VM migration on the XCP-ng side, there's a task which is created called migration or starting VM and so on, which is fine. But as soon as you start to make more complex operations with your VMs or backup or things like that, it's not just one action, it's a collection of tasks. For example, just for one migration between two XCP-ng hosts, there's something like 7 steps. There's snapshots, VM creation, destination, transfer, shutdown, snapshot again, delta transfer, boot, and so on. And so, since there's so many steps, it's hard to know where something maybe had a failure or what's the overall progress of the entire one migration. You can guess that if you don't know exactly how it works, which is not great. So that's why we mostly made a first work in progress to get those kind of multi-step tasks directly into Xen Orchestra, where you could put subtasks into it, meaning that if you have a complex kind of job, then you will have one message in the UI that will be current task running, one migration, this percentage or this step on this total number of steps, and you can track it very easily without knowing all the internal, because you will have all the steps going on in the background, so you can track it in a very clear way. So that would be a lot better for usability, and that's why it starts first by creating those objects in our collection of objects inside Xen Orchestra. So it's moving pretty fast. We hope to get it working very soon, and then you won't see it first because we won't expose it probably in the old UI, but that will be in the let's say a first-class citizen in the new UI of Xen Orchestra 6. Also, you'll have kind of bonus features like cancellation of tasks and so on that will be automatically do everything you need, and a history of all the tasks executed in the past with their duration and so on. So you could even see performance bottlenecks and so on and so on. So that would be a great way to improve your life while using complex tasks with Xen Orchestra. And finally, you will have the blog post posted soon on the Vates blog post, but that will be a recap on this year, 2022. So expect that to be posted, as I said, very soon. It will be an infographic doing a recap on, let's say, the important things that happened to Vates, Xen Orchestra, and XCP-ng in 2022, with some interesting numbers in terms of the good momentum we have with the community, the downloads, and so on. So this link will be available very likely in the next hours. So that's it to me, Mark. Let me know if you want to add something and close this
Yeah,
live.
just a closing message, but we will be at the very beginning of next year for those of you that are European. We will be at the FOSDEM in February, and we will be at the CloudFest in Germany in March. So expect some news at the very early in January about this event, but save the date already because we will be glad to meet you there. Also, as you know, during 2022, one of our main non-technical topic was to create a new graphic identity for all the solution of Vades. Today we ship in production the very new website for Vades, so we are pretty proud of it, and feel free to take a look on it. And that's it for me. If we don't have any question, then it's time to wish you a very happy New Year's and end of the year holidays. And see you in January for the next release of Xen Orchestra, of course. Thank
See
you,
you,
Oliver.
everyone.
And see you, everyone. Bye
Bye bye.
bye.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Bye bye.